Something very interesting came up yesterday in the Shem Tov. We're learning Shem Tov on Tefillah, learning how to daven, and this week we did Parshas Lech Lecha. So Parshas Lech Lecha refers exactly to what we were learning about. So I'll tell you what the Shem Tov says in Parshas Lech Lecha. We are learning, we learned this at the very beginning, that one of the main principles of the Baal Shem Tov is that we cannot have all the kavanot that all the great thinkers, the great Mekubalim have. The Anshe Knesset HaGadola, who are the ones who organized the wording for our tefillos, especially the brachot. And it's very difficult to have all those kavanot. So I found three great poskim who all say the same thing. We have the Baal Shem Tov, I think was the first one. He from the Olam HaChasidi. Then I found Rabbi Chaim Volozhin, the Talmud of the Gra, who was a Litai. And then I found the Ben Ish Chai, Rabbi Yosef Chaim in Baghdad, Svardi. They all came together and said the same thing. And that is, we can never hope to come to all of the kavanot that the Anshe Knesset HaGadola, who were made up of Nevi'im and Tanoim, and they knew the entire network of all the Olamos and all the worlds, the Tikkunim, and they put that into the words. So can we possibly come to all of their kavanot? Impossible. So what do we do? What do we do? So some say, you don't do anything. Just daven like a child. Say the words, hopefully you understand what they mean, and that's all. But these three great poskim who we had said no. You may not know what the Anshe Knesset HaGadola had in mind when they made up all of these tefillos. But what you can do is, you may be mevatel yourself. Take yourself and say, I'm putting myself into the words, and all the kavanot that you had, the Anshe Knesset HaGadola, in those words, I'm putting myself into the word, I'm going along with the word. I throw myself into the word completely. In other words, when I say Shema Yisrael, I think of myself as going into the Shin, and going into the Mem, and going into the Ayin, and I'm becoming one and part of the word. And all of the kavanot that the Anshe Knesset HaGadola put into that wording, I'm going along with it. I'm part of it. I become one with the letter. And then you accomplish by a shortcut what they had in mind. You don't have to think of all the computations that they had. We'll never be able to do that. You have to know too much. You have to know the entire map of all the worlds and all the tikkunim, everything that's going on, what's happening when I say this word, what's happening when I say that word, what happens on a regular day, what happens on a Shabbos, what happens on a... You can't have all those computations in your mind. All you have to do is put yourself into the word, as he started off in Parshas Noach, Bo el HaTeva. He told Noach, come into the ark. A word is also an ark. Come into the word. Think of yourself and you say the word, I'm putting myself into the word. And you become part of the word. And you go up to Shemayim with the word, with all the kavanot, automatically. Yes.
So it seems that one way to do that for some of us would be to keep our eyes on the words.
Okay.
Yes?
All right. So there's two ways to do that. One way is, and this is the preferred way, is if you close your eyes, and you all know what the letters look like.
In Shema Yisrael.
Well, you know the Aleph Beis and Aleph Beis, Gimel Dal, you know what they all look like, all like the letters. You've been familiar with it for many years already, you know. So you think of the word, the Shin for them, and the Mem, and then the Ayin, you think of yourself becoming part of the word. Okay. That's one way. But if you feel that you're not able to concentrate, and if you close your eyes, you might get distracted, and all kinds of things will come into your mind, and you need some kind of physical stimuli, so you open your eyes, you look at the word, but you have to be careful. If you open your eyes, you're already allowing your eyes to take in everything around you too. That we call peripheral vision. Your eyes are now open, and even though you're looking one way, your eyes already are able to see things on the sides, and you may get distracted. So you have to give yourself some kind of a trick to focus your vision on one thing and not be distracted by looking at else. And I think the best way is put your finger on the letter and point at the letter that you want, then put yourself into that letter, go to the next letter, then to the next letter. That way, you're focused and you're zeroing in like a laser on that particular letter, and then that's what you do. Now, how interesting it was that yesterday we learned Parshas Lech Lecha. Says the Baal Shem Tov, it's very interesting. It's very cute and it's interesting. He says, you know, we translate the words Lech Lecha, Me'artzecha, Mimelarecha, Beisavicha. Avram had a test. He had to leave his homeland, his father's land, go. El Aretz Asher Ha'eka. And what did it say at the end? Agadla Shemecha. I will make you great. Says the Baal Shem Tov.
What kind of a test is that?
Huh?
What kind of a test is that? That's not a test.
Not a
You're
test.
going to get rewarded right away.
No, right away. First of all, let me see you pack up and leave first. In those days, you walked out of a house, you were surrounded by jungle, desert and jungle. They didn't have city lights and cars, and you went out into the wilderness. You don't know what's going to be outside. All right, anyway. So, says the Baal Shem Tov, it's such a beautiful observation, it's so cute. It says, what's the gematria of Lech, Lamed Chaf?
Go into yourself. 38.
Lamed Chaf. What's the gematria of Lamed Chaf?
50.
50. 50, right? So the Baal Shem Tov says, in these words is a hint to what we were just talking about. Lech, go, where? Lecha. Go to 50. What's 50? How many letters are there in the pasuk Shema Yisrael? Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad. How many letters are in that pasuk? Shema is 3, right? Yisrael is 5, is 8. Right? Hashem, 8 and 4 is 12. 8 and 4 is 12. Hashem. And you have Hashem Elokeinu and Hashem Echad. Then you have to, again, Shema is 3, right? Shema Yisrael is 5, 8. Hashem, 4 is 12. Elokeinu is, how much is Elokeinu? 5, right? Elo...
6.
Huh? We said 12 and 12 and 5. I think it's 5.
7, 6.
Huh? So the 6. Okay, the 6.
This year it's 6.
Huh?
This year
Elokeinu. 12 and 12. Okay, so 12 and 8 is 20. Right? 12 and 8 is 20. Then you have Hashem again, right? 24. Correct. And then you have echad. Hmm?
27.
No, it's not 27. It's a mistake. Then we figured wrong. We figured wrong. It comes out exactly to 25. 25 letters. I counted it with the sitter in front of me. There's exactly 25 letters in the first pasuk of Shema Yisrael. If you say Shema Yisrael twice a day, morning and night, Shachris and Ma'ariv, you have 50. But let's say you don't want to include the second Shema Yisrael. You only want to include the Shema Yisrael and Baruch Shem.
Oh.
Baruch Shem has 24 letters.
Oh.
So it's 25 and 24. That's 49. 49. We're looking for 50.
Yeah.
Lech, lecha. Go to 30 and 20 is 50. Where do you have the 50th? The 50th is you. If you put yourself into the words, you're adding to the words, you're adding your own self. So you get to 50. And what do you do when you get into there? You are doing what the Baal Shem Tov said. You're coming into the word. And you're making it a full 50. And you become one with the word. And what are you saying at the end? Hashem Echad. You are becoming one with Hashem. You are unifying yourself with Hashem. And when you do that, the promise is, Agad lo shemech, I'll make you great. If you come and join me, you join where I am. Where am I? You know where I am? Hashem says, I'm inside the words. Inside the letters. That's where I am. You don't have to think, oh, I look up to Shemaim, that's where God is. You know, that's very nice to people who think that they're on this earth and they are the whole world. And you're looking up, where's God? God's in heaven. No, that's a complete farce. Why is it a farce? Because you go out into space. Go out into space. You can't even find the globe. You're just one grain of sand in this tremendous universe of trillions of stars.
And it's freezing cold.
Trillions of stars. You can't even find the globe, the Earth, planet Earth, in that map of stars. You can't even find it. It's so small, it's nothing. So what are you telling me? You look up in heaven, and that's where God is in heaven. What kind of heaven? Where heaven? What heaven? The whole thing is so vast. It's impossible to grasp it. Impossible to grasp it. You go out to space, all of a sudden there's no north, there's no south, there's no east, no west, there's no direction. You look at every place where you look, it's just infinity. That's all you see. It goes on and on and on, and it never ends. There's no heaven. What kind of heaven?
It's like a road of batteries.
Where is God? God is inside the letters. That's where I am. The Kedusha of me is inside the letters. You want to become one with me? Don't think of me up in heaven and you want to go up into heaven. No. God is all over. There's no such thing, up, down, east, west. There is no such thing. It's all words that we use if we're on this earth and we want to make ourselves the center of attention and give you the focal point. So we have such a thing called the North Pole and the South Pole and the Antarctica and the equator. These are all words we use for the physical world that we're on. But they're only a big game. That's all it is. It's a game. We live by that game. When it comes to truth, it's the furthest thing in the world from truth. It's not real truth. It's only what we call a relative truth for the kind of physical world that we're on right now. But it's not the emes la'amito, not the real truth. The real truth is what we just described before. God is everywhere, and He has condensed to make these letters. Who gave us the letters? Where did we get these letters from? Where did we get the letters from? We got them on Har Sinai. When Moshe received the Torah, he received the Torah in the form of letters. And he had the Aseret HaDibros. Hashem made the Aseret HaDibros, the first ones. Moshe Rabbeinu, he was supposed to make the second ones. But Hashem gave us the letters. And His Kedusha is in the letters. You want to attach yourself to Hashem, Lech Lecha. Go to 50. What's 50? 50 is Shema Yisrael, 25 letters in the first sentence. Baruch Shem Kavod is 24. Is altogether 49. And now you add the missing link. You add the last one. Put yourself in there too. And now you have 50. And then you'll be, what it says there, Shema Yisrael, Hashem Echad, you'll be one with Hashem. That was the remez that Shem Tov used for the first pasuk in Lech Lecha. Yeah, go ahead.
What is 49 letters? Because Shema is 50, what is the 49?
The first pasuk is 25 letters. Baruch Shem is 24. So 25 and 24 is 49. And then you add yourself to it, that makes 50. Or you can say the first pasuk of Shema Yisrael in Shachris is 25. The second pasuk in Ma'ariv, again you say it, is 25. You have the 50 that way. In any case, whenever you want to use the 50, that's what the pasuk is trying to hint at. It says, Lech Lecha. Go to the 50. That's what I'm telling you, Abraham. I'm telling you to leave your home, leave your house, leave your land. Where I want you to go. Go Lecha. Go to the 50. That's where you have to go. And what does that mean? El ha'aretz asher areka. That's the land. Where are you going to reach? You're going to reach the Shekhinah. That's the land. You connect with the Shekhinah that way. That's where I am. That's where I am. And you be with me, you're safe. Be with me, you're close to me, attached to me, you're protected. You're protected. And that's the way you'll become great. Anyone who attaches themselves to a great person will also become great if they are mavatal themselves to him. People did that throughout history. They saw people who are very successful and very great. They said, I'm going to become one of his Talmidim, one of his Chassidim. I'll join his ranks. If he's great, I want to get some of his powers. I want to nurse from his powers, and it will come to me also. There's a very strong, I would say, method and I would say factual proof that works. That works. Because you're infected by everything around you. If you attach yourself to somebody great, you become great. And I tell you something, I saw, as a matter of fact, you have, throughout history, we had Gedolei Yisrael. Real Gedolim, big ones. Big Rabbanim, very big. The ones who were the closest to them also became very often great too. That's the way it works. That's the way it works. You have, let me tell you, children, grandchildren. You want to give them good advice? I'll tell you what to tell them. Tell your children, tell your grandchildren, your great-grandchildren, tell them to get close to their rabbis. And if they have great rabbis, let them get close to them, let them talk to them, let them help them, let them stay around them, let them ask them questions, let them become close to them. You don't have to be a chassid, you don't have to be a chassidish rebbe. It could be a Litvak, it could be a Sfarad, it doesn't make a difference. But if he's a great man and you want your children and grandchildren to be great too, you want them to benefit, let them be close to them. Let them talk to them, honor them, ask them questions, listen to their Torah. Stay around them. And then they'll also become great. That's the way it works. And Kal V'chomer, Ben Beno Shel Kal V'chomer, if you stay close to God, well, that's the maximum. You can't get greater than that. Can't get greater than that. And I've seen it over and over and over and over again. Those people who stay close to the great people always benefit by it, and they nurse from that greatness. Very often they also become great themselves. Okay.
So, Rabbi, are
Yeah.
you saying that, like, becoming closer to the letters and inserting ourselves in the letters would create a reference point to become closer to Hashem, which we can't do with these grandiose concepts of rising to heaven and its enormity, that it's too much to become closer.
You don't have to go all the way up there. God is inside the letters. Hashem is inside the letters. That's where it is. You don't have to look up to heavens for it. Hashem is inside the letters. But if you're not saying the words at the time, so then you look to the spiritual world, whatever that means. You're looking for Hashem in the spiritual world, not in the physical world. So then you need already something that makes you look up. Why do you look up? Because up there is nothing physical. It's all space. So you figure that's closer to Hashem because God is totally spiritual. So you look up to the heavens, so to speak, because there is no solid, something that you can hold, and it's not tangible, something which is not tangible that you would expect to find God there. It's close. It's true, but the more spiritual you are, the less physical, the more you'll find God there. And more of His presence is revealed in the spiritual realm than it is in the physical realm. So that's what we look up to the heavens, because we know the heavens are not. What do you see? Clouds. What are clouds? Clouds are just fluffy gatherings of whatever it is, air. I don't know what makes up clouds. Whatever it is. Okay. So now we can go to the page on the Baal Shem Tov itself. I made some copies just for you right now. I'm going to pass out these copies. We'll look at the Sefer inside. We'll take one and pass the rest. Everybody have a page? You want to say something with Israel? Okay. So look at the page in front of you. Ois Nun Beis. Nun Beis. Ois Nun Beis. On the page in front of you, Nun Beis. You see that, Nun Beis? Pa'amim. Ein Adam Oved Rak Bekatnus. What does it mean, Oved Bekatnus? Sometimes you're on a low level. Hainu she'einu nichnas ba'olam hazeh yonim klal. You can't now concentrate on the spiritual world. You can't. You're just not there. You're not ready for it. You're not prepared. So what do? Rak shemechashev shemolei kol aretz kavodo. What you do think is, Hashem is here on this world too. I don't have to go up to Him. Hashem is here also. Where is He? As I just mentioned, He's here in the worlds, in the letters. You're like a child now that you don't have a large intelligence. Mikol makom, af shehu oved b'kadnus, oved b'dveikus gedolah, I should say. It says gadol. So here it's very important. I would say, first of all, it's indicated from here that if you really want to be a good davener, you should have your own siddur. It's a very important piece of advice. everyone should have their own siddur, not to be reliant on the siddur of the shul. Why? Because in your own siddur, you can write notes, you can write reminders. You can't do that in a public siddur. First of all, you give it back after the davening, and who knows if you'll get it back again afterwards. And it's not yours. And how can you write in a siddur? It's not yours. But you have your own siddur. You can write all kinds of reminders in there, and that helps you to concentrate and have the right kavanah. So here he's telling us in this sif right now that if you can't close your eyes and concentrate on the spiritual world where Hashem is, can't do that. So do it on a lower level. Look in the siddur and realize that Hashem is inside the letters. He's inside the letters. And I know Hashem is here, and I want to attach myself to the letters in front of me. And you can do that if you have the siddur, and you look at the words, and that's all, fine. And then you can sometimes underline things to keep you on track, so you don't forget things. Okay. But you have to do that also with a lot of concentration, a lot of focus. Remember, again, everything depends on how you start. And it's very important before you walk into the shul, before you walk into the base of Knesset or to the base of Midrash, so you have to stop at the door. You stop at the door and you have to say to yourself, I am now walking into God's house. This is Beis Hashem. It's not my house. In Hashem's house, I have to act differently. I cannot walk in there and say, how you doing? Haven't seen you. Where you been? Talking about your friend ended up coming to shul. You didn't see him for a few days. Oh, how are you? Glad to see you. You hug him and you... It's not your house. Would you do that? And you're walking into the Prime Minister's house and say that to your friend? You wait till you get outside and then you can talk to him friendly. You wouldn't do that in the Prime Minister's house, no matter what kind of Prime Minister it is. Doesn't matter. It's just not etiquette. It's not right. You don't do such a thing. You know, people bring children to shul. They bring their children, their grandchildren. Why do they do that? Because they want to give the wives a break. Get the kids out of the house, or they want to be mechanech their children, and they bring the children in, and they hold the children in their arms, they pick them up, and they kiss them. That's not the right etiquette. It's not the right behavior. When you come into shul, your affection has to be for Hashem. You don't kiss and hug somebody else in shul when you're talking in front of the Beis HaKnesses, in front of the Aron Kodesh. Why are you showing affection to somebody else? It's not the proper etiquette. It's not derech eretz. Don't do that. That you say for outside the shul. You walk into a shul, you have to realize you're not in your own home. It's not your living room. It's not your salon. This is a place that has special kedusha. A special kedusha. I told you the story. I'll tell it to you again. When I was in yeshiva, a young bacher, my Rosh Yeshiva invited a very choshev Rav from Bnei Brak to come. He was a what do you call it, a Nitzol Shoah. He was in the World War II, and he was saved. He went to Japan, and he was in Shanghai, and he wanted him to give us a talk and give us, put us on the right track. So we invited him to come to speak in the shul, in the Beis Medrash. And he comes and he's standing outside in the vestibule. He didn't want to walk in. So I went over to my Rosh Yeshiva. I said, there's a rabbi outside there. He looks like, maybe he's the one you invited. Looks like a very chashuv person. He has a hadras panim. So my Rosh Yeshiva walked over there and he says, it was actually him. He walks out and he said, I invited you to come and speak. Come and speak. The man's standing outside and he doesn't want to walk in. He's afraid to walk in. I can't understand it. Why did he come from Bnei Brak all the way to Yerushalayim and he doesn't walk into the Beis Medrash? How is he going to give us the talk? How is he going to speak to us out in the vestibule there? So I see there's a tug of war going on. My Rosh Yeshiva is out there and he's pulling him and he's pulling back. He doesn't want to walk in. So I wanted, this is amazing. I never saw such a thing in my life. I walked out there into the hallway to hear what's going on. So he said, I feel that I can't walk in. This is a Beis Medrash where people are learning Torah. There's so many malachim all over in the sky, in the air. I can't walk in there. Can't walk in. Person realized, Beis Medrash, Beis Knesses, it's not his home, not his living room, not his salon. Before you walk in, you have to realize you're walking into a place that has a higher level of kedusha, and a different kind of behavior of etiquette is expected in such a place. So if you come into shul in the morning, or from mincha, or from ma'ariv, you stop at the door. And there's actually a pasuk that you could say, which we say in Slichas, V'veis Elokim nehalech b'ragesh. When I walk in God's house, I walk in with a awareness. I'm walking in God's house, not my house. Not my house. I have to walk here with a lot of derech eretz. If I see a piece of paper on the floor, I'm not going to say, I didn't drop it. I didn't drop it. It's not my paper. I'm not the janitor. I have to pick up the piece of paper.
Yes.
Of course you do. This is God's house. You have to mechabed the Beis Knesses, the Beis Midrash. You pick up the piece of paper and you throw it in the wastebasket or wherever it is. This is God's house. You can mechabed God's house. Whether you dropped it or didn't drop it doesn't make a difference. And then you're creating for yourself the proper mindset to David. When you realize you're talking to Hashem on a higher level. It's very, very important, because if you look at what goes on a daily basis, it's really, it's a pity, it's a pity. And it wasn't a wonder to me when the Corona Magefa started a year and a half ago. It started around March, April, when it first started, and they closed down all the shuls because they were afraid of, catching the virus. It was very contagious. They didn't know anything about it at the beginning. Put on masks, social distancing. Well, in the beginning, they closed the shuls. Many shuls were closed for a full year. I heard Rabbanim talking, and they were saying, God is not happy with our behavior. He's telling us, go home, think it over, and see what you have to do, then come back. And it took a long time before the shuls were opened up. This has been building up, this is not just a one-day thing that happened. This has been going on since I remember. I came from the United States in 1971. This is the way people behaved. All the yeshiva people, all the religious spalabatim come in, how are you? Yeah. Conversation. It's like you meet somebody, on the street. There's no difference between inside the shul and outside the shul. It's all the same. Well, after a while, God lets us go on for a certain amount of time, and then all of a sudden, boom. So I had enough. I had enough. And God had his ways of getting the message across. It came to a point where people weren't listening, they weren't getting the cue, so he closed the doors, and that's it. Close the doors. What can I tell you? That's the way it is. So if you create for yourself the proper atmosphere when you walk into a shul, to begin with, you stop at the door, you say, I'm going into God's house, and then you say, when you walk in, you say, oh, thank God. Vani baro chastecha avo meisecha. You're so kind to me to allow me to come to shul. Eshtachava el heichal kodechecha b'yiraseh. I bow to you. When you walk into the shul, you should bow to the Aron Kodesh. Acknowledgement. Acknowledgement. Then, when you're davening, you're going to have a different davening. A different davening. That's what it's all about. That's what it's all about.
How about putting the cell phones away? not even bringing them in, but at least
Well,
close it down.
right. Well, of course.
Close it down.
Of course. Yeah, that goes without saying. Obviously.
It needs to be said, I'm sorry.
No, I'm
It
saying.
needs to be said.
Yes, but what we're talking about is a much higher level. That is ridiculous.
It's ridiculous, but it happens all the time.
Because
Anywhere and everywhere.
why does it happen? Because sometimes people forget. All right, sometimes they would close it up, but sometimes they forget. But what the main problem is that the lack of chinuch. People are not taught how to appreciate a basic knesses. They're not taught. Not taught. There's a special halacha of Mora Mikdash. Mora Mikdash. When you walk into the base of Mikdash, which the basic knesses is a miniature of, you're expected to behave differently. You have to have a higher level of etiquette. It's Makom Kadosh. It's a holy place. So, I would say, in such a place, it's very, very advisable to have your own sitter. That shows that you're really sincere and you're really making an effort to improve on your tefillah. By you have your own sitter. And you can write notes in it, you can underline things, reminders of all kinds. It's very, very important. And if a person doesn't have his own sitter, it shows that he's still not taking it seriously enough.
I remember in the shul in Philadelphia, there was a man who was my age now, what I am now. I was much younger. He had his grandfather's machzor.
Okay, very good.
Grandfather's machzor.
Very good, very good. Very good. That's a cover for the nifter. Cover for the nifter. Okay. Let's take a look. Now we're going to skip, go down on the page in front of you to Nun Dalet. Ois Nun Dalet on the page. Lifamim. You see it? Ois Nun Dalet? Okay, let's read it together. Lifamim. Im Eino Yochel Lispalel. That sometimes you feel you can't concentrate now. I can't concentrate. I don't want to just say the words. Ani lo yochel Lispalel. Lo yamin shehayom b'vada lo yitpalel. Don't think that the whole day is gone. That's it. The day is gone. Elowat yichazek atzmo yoser. You take yourself in hand, strengthen yourself a little bit, and say, "No, I got to get my act together, and I am going to daven today." V'yipo olav yira yoser v'yoser, and have slowly, more and more awe for Hashem. Kihu mashal lemelech sheyotzer lemilchemes lemilchama. Take an example here, and he gives us. A king goes out to war. Umislabesh atzmo, and he dresses up with all the armor. And he doesn't look like a king anymore. He looks like a regular soldier. However, the ones around him, they recognize him because of he moves differently than a regular soldier. Those who aren't so bright and they don't know all of the simanim how to detect. Makirim es hamelech al yedei simanim shebemakom sheyesh sham. That word is a simcha. It's a mistake. It should be shmira. Yisera v'gedola. How will they know who the king is? They don't recognize him. They don't recognize him by his movements. So they look to see which soldier is being guarded by other soldiers. If they see one soldier who is guarded by other soldiers, that means he is a top man. He's a general, maybe he's the king. They can't recognize the king by his movement. They're not so educated to know that. But they look around to see where is there one soldier who is being surrounded by others to protect him. Then they know there is a big officer, maybe the king himself. Sham hu hamelech. So he says, V'chein, tishe'enu yochol itpalel b'kavana, also that's a mashal. If you cannot daven with kavanah, Yeda sheyesham shmira yisera misaviv hamelech. You have to realize that around the king there are many guards. Many guards around the king. Ube'emes yesh sham melech, and there is a king inside. But you can't get close to him. Why? Machmas godel hashmira shesaviv hamelech. You can't get close to him because the king is protected by all of his guards. Lechein tzarich lechazik atzmo b'yira. How are you going to break through that barricade of guards around the king? Who are those guards around the king? The malachim. They're protecting him. They're not going to let you come because you're not worthy. How are you going to get worthy? They see that you're strengthening yourself and you really, really want to get close to the king. Have more yiras Hashem, more yiras Hashem. U'b'koach gadol b'kavana yisera k'dei sheyeh yachal litkarev litpalel lefanav yizbarach shemo. And you said, I'm not going to give up. I'm going to be able to communicate. I want to connect. I want to connect to God. You say that to yourself, I can't let this pull me down and say that it's all lost for today. No. I am here, I came to Shul, I'm not going to let this be a complete failure and walk out of here without connecting to Hashem. I'm going to do it. And you think to yourself that, and you consciously say, this is it, I'm not giving up. And you see from here, the Baal Shem Tov says, you cannot depend on anybody else to do it for you. Nobody can do it for you. If you want to connect to God, God is always available. But you have to make the effort. If you make the effort, then you will do it. You know, as I said, I mentioned what the Kotzker Rebbe said when he was a child. When they asked the Kotzker Rebbe, they asked him, how many people over here understand Yiddish? How many people understand Yiddish? Only two. Okay, I'll say it in English. They asked the Kotzker Rebbe, where is God as a child? He answered, wherever you let him in. Wherever you let him in. You open the door for him, he's there. He's available all the time. But you have to be worthy of it. If you don't say to yourself, Hashem, I want to talk to you. I need you, I want to talk to you. If you don't say that to yourself, you see, then he's not going to listen to you. You have to show that you really want to connect to him. If you really want to connect to him, then the door opens. The malachim will open up the doors and you go right through. Okay. We can go to the next page. The next page, you don't have, I'm going to pass out again another page. And take one, please, and pass the rest out.
You have it?
If you have it, page 135, if you have it already, so you don't need it. It's 135. We're going to learn now a very important principle. Very important principle. Look at the Os Nun Vav, the second paragraph on the page. Os Nun Vav. It says, Kishiyeh Bakatnus. If a person has, a low level of dveikus, of attachment, try your hardest, no matter how big or how small you are. Sometimes if you're, not able to concentrate well, take it Kishiyachshov ba'olam elyon, miyad hu ba'olam asvalyonim. Immediately, all of a sudden, you jump from this world to the upper worlds. Shekamo, listen to this, Baal Shem Tov. This is, wow, this is so important. Shekamo she'adam mechashev sham hu. You see that? Shekamo she'adam mechashev sham hu. The way you think, that's where you are. You hear that? The way you think, that's where you are. Now this is a principle which comes from the Zohar. Now I'm going to show you how it's practically applied. Don't think that you are where you are sitting. You say, I'm sitting here, so I'm here. What do you mean I'm not here? But if you're sitting here and your mind is in Shemayim, so I ask you now, where are you? Are you there or are you here? The truth of the matter is, the real you is there. If your mind is in Shemayim, that's where you really are, because that's who your true essence is. Your neshama is your true essence. What your guf is only a subordinate to your neshama. Your true essence is where your mind is. That's where your neshama is. If your mind is there, that's where you are. Now, I'll give you how that's applied in many, many ways, but here's a beautiful mashal. I may have said it here before. This comes from the father of Rabbi Shlomo Zalman Auerbach. His name was Chaim Yehuda Leib Auerbach, and he lived here in Shaarei Chesed. And he once asked a very important question. What was his question? He says, think about Yom Kippur. Yom Kippur, Erev Yom Kippur, the Suda Mafsekes, you know you have to fast tomorrow, so you eat a big meal, you're drinking and eating, so that you have koach to fast for the next day. You come into shul, oh, Kol Nidre, wow. And then you have Ma'ariv and Baruch Hu, and you say Shema Yisrael, and you say, Baruch Shem Kavod Melchuso. All year long you whisper it, Baruch Shem Kavod. All of a sudden, Yom Kippur night, scream it out, Baruch Shem Kavod Melchuso. Why? Why? Because on Yom Kippur, we're all dressed in white, and we're fasting, we're like Malachim. The Malachim say, Baruch Shem Kavod Melchuso, loud to Hashem. So we're also like Malachim Yom Kippur, so we could say it also loud. Okay, fine. Comes now after Ne'ilah, after fasting a whole day, and you come to the high point of the spiritual Yom Kippur, and you're not even so hungry anymore. You're fasting so long already, you're not even so hungry. You know, after Ma'ariv, you could stay even longer in shul. Some people, you know, I'm not rushing to get home yet. I'll do Kiddush Levana first. I'll do all kinds of things. They're not rushing to get home. Comes the Davening Ma'ariv right after Ne'ilah, and you're saying Shema Yisrael. All of a sudden, Baruch Shem Kavod Melchuso, you have to whisper. Why are you whispering? You're on the highest madrega. You're just working a whole day on Yom Kippur. Your own higher Shachris and Musaf and Mincha and Ne'ilah. And you're at the top of the ladder. So now you're davening Ma'ariv, you should be able to scream it out even stronger than when you started off at Ma'ariv. And you have to whisper. Why? Doesn't make any sense, just the opposite. What did we just learn from the Zohar? It's so beautiful. The Zohar says, where your mind is, that's where you really are. Where your mind is, that's where you are. When you come into Yom Kippur, Kol Nidre, you're looking forward to it. You've been building it up. Aseret Yemei Tshuva, Rosh Hashanah, Aseret Yemei Tshuva, Shabbos Tshuva, Yom Kippur. You're in the Olam Yisrael. You're like, wow, Yom Kippur. You came with a full belly. You just ate a Suda Mafsekes. You're howling like an animal. You ate so much and drank so much. Doesn't matter. Where's your mind? Your mind is, wow, it's Yom Kippur. It's Yom Kippur, Kol Nidre. If my mind is connected to Hashem, it's Yom Kippur and Yom Kippur, I can scream out like the Malachim, Baruch Shem Kavod, because now it's Yom Kippur and I feel it. And I'm looking forward to the Yom Kippur and I'm building it up for. After Ne'ilah, you're davening Ma'ariv. Where's your mind? Finish up. I got to get home to eat. I got to get home to eat. I'm hungry. Oh, you're hungry? All of a sudden you think about food? You're not a Malach anymore. You're not a Malach anymore. You're not up in the elements of Yonim. You're not like you were at the beginning of Yom Kippur. You're so uplifted because of Yom Kippur, of the Kedushas Hayom. You just come into it. You're waiting to get home to eat. You wanted to have a Ma'ariv fast, get home already. Comes to Baruch Shem Tov, so you're like any other day. You have to whisper it. You're not a Malach anymore.
I got a better one for you.
Yeah.
Right after Yom Kippur, you're going right into Ma'ariv, and you're asking,
Okay.
5 minutes later, how
not
many
good.
things can you do from
Right.
Yom Kippur until
That's
Ma'ariv?
that's a separate question. That's a separate question. But that's what we learned from the Baal Shem Tov. This is a quote from the Zohar. Where a person's mind is, that's where he really is. That's the true person. There's going to come to a time when you reach 120 years old and where your body is not where you're going to stay. Your body's going to go into the ground. But you, the real you, is going to go in Shemayim. That's where you really are. What you take with you, your mind you take with you. That's what you go up with, your mind. That's what you really are. And therefore, if you put your mind to be connected to Hashem in your tefillah, that's where you are. It means you're with Him. You're in the Olam Yisrael Yomnim. You're inside, connected to the Shekhinah. That's where you are, and that is your goal. I'm forgetting about my body. I want in my mind to connect to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. You can be in the Olam Akatanim, Nemuchim, at the very, very lowest. But all of a sudden, you jump to the highest. Why? Because I want to connect with Hashem. If you want to connect with Hashem, that's where you are. And therefore, you go from Katan to Gadol. Okay. That's it for today, Rabbi.